Oh, doobie-doo. Yeah, Buddy Greco on the great voice of Volusia County, 9 minutes now before the hour of 8 o'clock. Don't forget news at the top of the hour from the CBS Radio Network. Nancy Long is with us. She wants to be the next mayor in South Daytona. Good morning, Nancy. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
We love having you in the studio. We'd like to talk now. Before we talk about politics, there's always things before politics. Let's talk about the ghost of Lillian Place.
The
Okay?
ghost of Lillian Place.
Yeah,
Yes.
tell us about this.
Well, I founded the Heritage Preservation Trust 14 years ago, and the purpose of it was to save Lillian Place.
Okay.
And after getting 2 ECHO grants, which I hope people will vote for ECHO again, we were able to save the 1884 house, turn it into a museum. And then we have saved the 1905 house next door, which is now our cultural event site. And we have the old carriage house, which is the Welcome Center. So 2.5 acres have been preserved because they would have been destroyed. They were zoned
Sure.
for condominium.
Sure.
So with a wonderful group of volunteers that I've had through the 14 years, we've saved them. Now they are the site is now closed because of the virus.
Okay.
But we're hoping to open soon, and yeah, so we have saved a significant part of history, and we do have a ghost. And there were so many stories about the ghost. People were telling me, they swear it was firsthand knowledge. So needless to say, I am an author. I have written 4 books, and so one of the books is The Ghost of Lillian Place, and that's the one that I've given you today.
Yeah. I got to tell you, this is fabulous. I remember when I first came to town and bought the radio station, that's when you were putting funding together to turn this into a museum. And I got to tell you, I think it's a great place. It will be open again.
It's
going to be all spruced up by that time, and will look beautiful. So in the meantime, you'd like to be the next mayor of South Daytona, right?
Yes. It's interesting because I was on council for 13 years.
Okay.
And then 2 years ago, I plan to run again. And I will tell you, I've always been very responsive. Anytime anybody called me, immediately I would get help for them.
Sure.
It was a strange thing, though. I had Christmas of 2018, I had an accident. I fell in the backyard. You trip over snow, and we had my slippers on, and I injured my teeth.
Ooh.
Well, yeah. So I went to the dentist. A couple months later, I had no idea that when you injure your teeth and hurt the nerves, it can affect your whole face. So all of a sudden, my right side of my face started to jump like a frog. So, it was ridiculous. So I would go to meetings, and I had to pull the Jack Benny thing,
Oh, yeah.
Put my hand over my cheek.
Yep.
And, we were going to the dentist. They ran tests, etc. Long story short, by July, I had filed my papers and paid my fees, etc., to run for re-election. But my son is stationed in Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
We were on the phone with him. He goes, Mom, you can't smile. Your face is twitching. And you have 2 little grandkids over here. So why don't you just retire? So I talked to the person who was running against me, who is the ex-police captain. Okay. And he's a friend. Yeah. And so we talked, and he assured me he would be independent and, follow my policies of being responsive and a free thinker is what I had hoped for. And anyway, so I withdrew my name. Ironically, I was still on the ballot, and even though I wasn't running, I still got 48% of the vote. And I have to tell you, it made me feel so good that the people appreciated me. So eventually now, 2 years later, we've been traveling. I went to Dr. Kushner, and he was able to treat my face so that I now can smile and I don't have a frog in my cheek. And when we got back from Malaysia in March, I started to get phone calls from a lot of business owners and residents. Yep. And they just said that the last 2 years, the city is not the warm, friendly atmosphere that it had been. We have a charter that says the city council councils the city manager, and then the city manager runs the city and the employees.
Right.
But in the last 2 years, it seems to have been blurred. Our mayor is the ex-police chief, and the people just asked me to run, so that's why I'm running.
That's the reason why you're running, and when you got votes when you weren't even running.
Well, that's true.
Well, let's talk about, let's say you become the next mayor of South Daytona. What is the first thing you want to do besides open up a more friendly community?
Well, basically, I do believe that our code enforcement laws need to be reviewed. They're antiquated.
Okay.
And I've talked to, the council says there's no problem with the codes, But when you have over 25 people calling you, and I've gotten endorsements from Andy Clark, Mike Panaggio from DME, and a lot of others, and they just say that the code enforcement rules stop people from coming into our city. And if you go through South Daytona, there's so many vacancies. So that would be one of the big issues. Second issue, we still have a D school. And I've already talked to the new principal. He was named June 1st. And I think that I talked to him about ways that the city can work with him to bring up that grade of the school. We have to have a good quality school if we're going to bring families into our city.
Good point.
Yes.
Good point.
And the third thing is the athletic programs. They have basically been decimated. I was on Park and Rec, and my kids played with the City League. We had Babe Ruth, and we worked so hard to bring up the quality of our athletic programs. And those have basically been cut in half. They fired 8 people in the 2 years, and they fired the whole athletic and park department.
Okay.
Some of those people were our best grant writers. And we now have 2 lawsuits against the city because of the way they were fired. I mean, it was not the friendly way South Daytona usually does it. It would be like you show up for work, they come to the door, pack your things up, we'll escort you to your car. I mean, it's like something in TV. So these are the things that people have been asking me to check into.
Sure,
and
sure.
I've had like a little website, and I've gotten so many questions and concerns.
Yeah.
And I'm already responding to them. It's like my husband says, it's like you're on council. You're already calling the city manager. And I do think the city manager, if he was left to do his job, he'd do a great job.
Okay. Nancy Long, she's a candidate for South Daytona mayor are you going to be in the primary election?
Well, what's so strange, people have to realize the primary is our general election.
Okay.
So August
So you'll know
18th.
on August 18th.
That's right. So please
Okay.
get out there and vote, people. And it's so hard with this pandemic because you have to wear your mask. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I'll vote in November." I said, "No, it's too late. You have to vote by August 18th."
Yeah. Now, if somebody'd like to know more about you or talk to you about some of the different issues in South Daytona, or maybe want to help you with your campaign, that's always nice. How
Right.
can they reach you?
Well, my website is nancylongformayor.com, and I'll give my phone number, 386-299-4974, and it's on the website. I have a Facebook page also,
Okay.
Nancy Long for Mayor, so they can contact me at any time.
Okay, sounds good. Nancy, best of luck. We'll probably be talking to you a couple of times between now and election time, but
Thank you.
get out there, knock on those doors, and talk to people.
All right. Stay healthy.
Okay, there she goes. That's Nancy Long on the great voice of Volusia County.